Hey all, TonyBing here, hello and welcome back to another in-depth review for Marvel Strike Force. Now, today we look at the most recent character released to the game, Namor. So, in the video, to let you know if he's worth investing in various different sections we cover, we start off with the general overview where we look at his tags and how you unlock them. We then follow it up by having a look at his stats. Next up it's the abilities, and I'll let you know how high you actually want to level them during that section. We then have the Synergies, which is characters he works well with, characters you want to avoid, and then finally we'll see where he places in the tier list. So let's start off with the general overview. Namor then is without a doubt a one-trick pony, almost on the same level if not more as Storm in regards to what he can do, and under the right circumstances he can be devastating, but the right circumstances don't actually come up that often. It's something we will discuss a lot more as we look at all the abilities. Now, in regards to these tags, it's Villain, Global, Mutant, Brawler and Marvel 80th. The Marvel 80th is just a temporary one, I believe. The other tags, he doesn't really tie in that much with characters. To be honest, Mutant tag's a pretty weak one. The Brawler one, unless it also goes alongside Hero, is pretty weak as well. So tag wise he doesn't do too great. In regards to how you unlock him, I believe there was some data mine information mentioning the fact we may get an 80th anniversary Aubrey will be available in that, so keep an eye out for that in the next few days. That's the overview. Let's now have a look at his stats, and we'll start off with the offensive stats. For his stats then, they do look a bit odd, but it's due to the way he's been set up so that he only excels in war. So his damage rating is actually way down at an E, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's probably the lowest damage rating for a brawler character. He does get buffs to it in war, but it means outside of war you won't be doing much damage at all for a class that's there to put out damage. His speed is 113, that is on the decent side, that's up at a B. His focus is D, but that's not really relevant due to how his kit works. Now, also from an offensive perspective, he can gain additional damage, he can get offense up, and he can get piercing, but it is all situational, and that's something we'll look at a lot more when we get to the abilities section. But that's the offensive stats. Let's have a look at the defensive ones. Defensive wise then, his stats are in a way a bit like the offensive stats, and they're not what you expect. As a brawler you expect him to have high damage, he doesn't actually have that, and as a brawler you would expect him to have low health, but he actually doesn't. He's got the 6th highest health in the game, that's if we're not including passive, so his health rating is way up at an A. His armour is C, which is decent considering how high his health pool is, and his resistance is B as well, so it will be really hard to apply debuffs on him. And also for his kit he has ways he can gain additional armour as well there, so for a brawler he can actually be really pretty tanky. Now, with the stats covered, let's have a look at his abilities. So as we've already touched on, Namor is all about one mode, and it is war offense. So when we look at these upgrades you're going to do, you have to really weigh it in regards to how much value do you put into war in the current alliance you're in. Is it exceptionally important that you actually win as many wars as possible? If so, then you will want to invest in Namor. Now, when we look at his passive anyway, it's Imperious Rex, so you gain 20% damage, you gain 30% armour. On war offense, on spawn you apply offense up for 2 turns to all Fantastic Four allies and self. You also apply deflect for 2 turns to Fantastic Four allies and self. You gain an additional 30% damage, and Fantastic Four allies gain 30% damage as well. Now, this one, the difference between level 4 and level 5 is pretty big. It's 10% damage off the first line, 10% armour, it's 10% damage to the Fantastic Four characters and yourself in war offense, and also if you've only got it at level 4 you won't be applying that offense up and deflect to everyone, you'll only be applying it to 3 random characters. So if you're putting a lot of value into winning wars, then this is one you really have to max out. So the first active ability we look at here is his basic, which is Neptune's Trident. So with this you attack primary target for 210% damage and 50% piercing. With his low base damage you're really not going to be doing much with this. The difference between level 6 and 7 is 40% of your flat damage and 10% piercing, so this simply isn't worth upgrading at all, so just take it to level 6. For the special we have a skill called Tidal Wave, so it's a free turn charge and comes fully charged, but you will be using the ultimate turn number 1 Now with this you attack primary target for 350% damage and adjacent targets for 340% on target blocks. This really applies to War Offense when you're up against a room that's boosted and it's got deflect, because deflect and block are the same thing. So when this happens, you bonus attack 2 times for 100% piercing to primary and adjacent targets. So that's 350% flat damage and then 200% piercing if the target has deflect as well. So in War this can be really pretty powerful. The difference from level 6 to 7 is 60% damage to primary and adjacent, and over the course of the 2 attacks it'll be 40% piercing. So if you're really going all in on Namor so that he can just smash teams in War, I would say this is one you probably want to upgrade. The final ability we have here is one of the best looking abilities in the game, and also one of the most silly abilities in regards to how broken it is in War Offense. So it's called Giganto. Whopping 7 turns to charge and comes fully charged. You'll generally be using this turn number 1. So in regular modes you will tackle enemies for 300% damage and that's it, and it can actually be blinded and so on. On War Offense the attack always crits, you clear all positive effects from each target, you change speed bar of all targets by 50%, and the attack is unavoidable, so it doesn't matter if he's blinded, and it cannot be countered, which is absolutely crazy. It's really just silly, and unfortunately it completely limits Namor to War Offense, and that's it, and it's really disappointing to see that happen to a character. So as we already mentioned in the video, really, if you're looking to run them in War Offense, then you will want to upgrade this to the max. It's a ridiculous skill and it will absolutely destroy just about any team on War Offense. So that is all the abilities. Let's have a look at the synergies. When it comes to characters he can work well with, we really don't have a lot here. That's down to his tags and how one-dimensional his kit is. So you've got the Fantastic Four due to all the different buffs they actually share via their passive. Now I will specifically single out the Human Torch. He can be nice because outside of War Offense, where you don't get the offense up straight away at the start of the match on Namor, if you run Human Torch and Namor together, then Human Torch can use his special, apply offense up to Fantastic Four characters and also Namor, and it means you've got offense up for casting that ultimate on turn number 1, so it can push out a little bit more damage on it. But that's the characters he works well with, so let's look at the characters you want to avoid. When it comes to characters you want to avoid, I've split them into 2 categories here. Firstly, if you're playing them on War Offense, the first group is characters that, depending on how the AI actually acts, there's a chance they could potentially take him out, but he has got that huge health pool to act as a cushion. So you've got Captain Marvel, Human Torch, they can do a ton of damage before he actually has a chance to cast his ultimate. You've got Miles Morales, who can slow him and lower his speed bar, and then you've got Korath, who potentially, if he gets lucky, could apply that ability block. So they're characters you need to watch out for. Now outside of War Offense, when his ultimate can actually miss, you can use the likes of Star-Lord to blind him, so the ultimate will completely miss, or you could use Rescue, Kree Royal Guard, or also Captain America to apply either a barrier or defense up so the ultimate isn't hitting for as much. So that's the characters to try and avoid if you can. So let's just finish up and see where he places in the tier list. So when it comes to placing them more in the tier list, I believe what we really need to do first is look at what he offers in War Offense and what he offers outside of it. So in War Offense, via his ultimate will always crit, and it's hitting for 300% damage to everyone. It will clear all positive effects from every target. It changes the speed bar of all targets by 50%. It's unavoidable. It cannot be countered. On his passive, he'll be applying offense up for 2 turns to himself and Fantastic Four allies. He'll apply deflect for 2 turns to himself and Fantastic Four allies. He gains an additional 30% damage, and Fantastic Four allies gain 30% as well. So that is an insane amount that he actually offers. Now for that reason, I've made a slight change in the format of the tier list, and you can let me know in the comments below if you feel this is a good way to move forward with this, and if not, I can always change it for the next video. But for the purpose of this one, previously I had an R tag next to characters that excelled in raids, and I feel with how strong that Namor is in War Offense and how weak he is outside of it, placing him based on his overall performance would be really tricky. He'd probably be a mid-tier, probably a mid-level 3 character, but I'm going to place him based on his war offense, actual damage that he does, and his contribution. So you can see the little R next to him when I do place him, and given everything he's able to offer, I would place him as a low level Omega character. He is exceptionally strong in war, to the point that it's just really a bit silly how powerful they have made him. They've made him far too strong in one mode, and they've massively gimped him in all the other modes on the back of it. But he would then sit, as mentioned, as a low level Omega character based on war performance. So if you're in an alliance that really puts a lot of value in war, then he's a character you really should be farming. Otherwise you can probably give him a skip. But as always, I hope this video has been helpful. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the rating, if you agree with this new system I've got with the little W to signify that they're placed based on war. And really thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all again soon.